Hello. This week I'm going to be building up two of the vehicles that came with my Canadian Army. The first one is a Churchill tank, and the second one is a Universal Carrier. Now, a couple of things to say. The Universal Carrier, I've built one of those before, and I opened the bag and I took out the figures and painted them up in advance just to save myself a bit of time. So that should be straightforward. The Churchill, I don't think I've ever made one of these. I can't remember making one. I've certainly not got one in my collection now. But what I'm thinking of doing is that there's an AVRE, Churchill AVRE on display at Juno that apparently got stuck in a bomb crater or something, and it failed to get out. So as a consequence, it didn't get off the beach. So I'm thinking of honouring that one really and making a Churchill AVRE out of it. As I say, I've noticed just by looking at the sheet, there's a couple of little cuts and things you need to make to parts of the kit. I can see on the first section it's talking about drilling out holes, but it seems to be suggesting that they're for the Mark III and the Mark IV models, so I don't think that's going to apply to me. The second cut that it tells you to make is on the turret, and it just says to cut part 20 here, so I'm presuming by that they mean it's for all versions. And then the third bit that does apply to me is on part 32. I need to cut some out with my little craft knife on that. So, but we'll cross that bridge when I come to it. What I intend to do really is follow this, on the chart itself. So I'm going to just take off the parts I need for the first part of the build, and we'll take it from there. Right, so the first bit's going to be straightforward. Basically, all we're going to be doing is putting the two sides of the wheels together and then fitting the tracks, which is the fiddly bit. And once we've got them done, we can get them onto the base. So we'll get this done fairly quickly. Right, so now that I've put the tracks in place on the side, I'm just holding everything in position because I don't want it moving while it dries. It'll only take a few minutes, but every time I adjusted something I'd got a bit wobbling off, so this seemed the best way to go about it, to hold it in place. Right, so we'll let that dry and then I'll bring you back and we'll carry on with the rest of it. Right, it's time to put the top piece on. Put a layer of glue where it's due to sit. I think that's it. Seems to have gone on fairly easily. Right. So part 48. Let's have a look. It's showing that. That's going to go in just there, isn't it? Let's hold it in place while it's... There we go. And I've got one for this end as well. Right, I'll just let that dry and then I'll bring you back and we'll have a look at the next parts. So I'm actually copying the tank itself now, and I'm just putting the machine gun section in place. Yeah, there's the picture, look. There's the tank. So far so good. Alright, let's put these side boxes on. Right, so this is the bit where, if you remember on the front of the sheet, it talked about cutting some lugs out, and that's on this piece. So I've cut those out on the side, and that's to take these small pieces. Not quite sure what they are. Don't know whether it's a fire extinguisher or a lamp, I can't tell with my eyes. Anyway, they'll fit into that. You use the moulded one for mine, the AVRE. So and I'm not going to have tank commander sticking up. I never do, I just don't like it. I don't know why, but I just don't. So I should do closed hatches on mine. Right, so let's start sticking some of those in place. I'm going to put this plastic aerial in. I expect, like the rest of you, they're a bit brittle and they tend to break off. So if that does happen, I should just drill it out and put a soft nylon brush hair or something like that in there. But I'll put it in for now. There's another to go there. There we go, that's the first one on. go. That's both of them in place. The area look right while it's drying. Right, same procedure on the other hatch. On the lamp. So that's that one, and then we've got this one. Right, so we've cut that slot out for this. That can fit into that. That's that in place. Right, this is where we put the thing on the back. Right, and then we can put these in the side. Yeah, it's hot, isn't it, Bob? There we go. Right, so let's just put this hatch on the top, and then that's that part of it finished. There we go. Alright, so hold that in place while I'll just put this temporary in place just to show you. Alright, let's pan back a bit. So there it is. So that's the Churchill AVRE. Right, so now that the Churchill is done, we'll turn our attention to this universal carrier. Now basically what I've done so far is I've clipped off all of the parts that I want to use. I can follow the basic parts of these instructions, but when it comes to the difference between the Mark 1 and the Mark 2, I'm going to change this anyway to match one that I found in an old photograph, you know, that the Canadian Army have got. So I prefer to go on what it says on that and make it look like an existing, you know, 1940s universal carrier. So what I'm going to do, because there's going to be a lot of fiddling around and changing the parts, I think a better way of showing it you, and if I'd have thought about it I probably could have done the same with the Churchill, is at each stage I'll take a photograph, and so what we'll do is we'll build this up with a series of photographs, because I think that way, you know, if you've got to build one, it's going to show you a bit more about of what I'm doing rather than, you know, just filming it from above. Right, so it's experiment time. I've primed it in army green, just as a primer, but now I want to paint it the actual colour. So I'm going to try my cheap little airbrush. You might remember it from when I did the explosions. I wasn't expecting a lot then. I'm expecting even more from it now, so I'm not quite sure what this is going to do. Well, as you can see, I persevered with my rubbish little air gun, but it's not done too bad a job, look, in the end. Admittedly, it's cheap and nasty, but then again, you know, I only paid pennies for it, so... But it's done a reasonable job. I had to strip it apart and clean it twice to get through to the end of the process, but overall it's not too bad. I don't know whether I'd chance it again for anything like this, because it was a lot more trouble than it should have been, really, but I've only got one Churchill to do at the moment, so yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. And obviously this is together now. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give them a strong tone wash, and as usual I'm mixing it 50-50 with the quick shade wash mixing medium, just so it's not too strong. And I'm just basically going to slap this over the entire models. Not doing anything fancy, I'm just going to paint it on. So I'll get this done and get the other one done as well, and then when they're dry we'll come back for the next stage. So now that it's dry, I'm going to do a bit of a dry brush of the original Russian uniform, and I'm going to do that just to bring a bit of the colour back after the wash. Go. I think what I'm going to do is do the same thing but with the army paint on here, but I'll probably do the circular motions that I did before on this, because I don't want to bring it up too much, just a bit. So I'll get that done off camera and let it dry, and then I'll bring you back for the next stage. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give the Churchill another dry brush, but this time I want something a little bit lighter just to catch the top surface, and I've switched to a broader brush because I'm going to be doing quicker strokes. And what I'm going to be using is my Canadian infantry uniform, which, as you remember, is a mix of 50-50 Russian uniform with khaki by Vallejo. So put some of that down. And then what I'm looking to do is to drag it across the top and pick out the highlights. Whether you can see that, it's very subtle. Right, now I'm going to also add a bit as a highlight to the turret. That's what that's looking like. Again, I'm not sure the camera's picking it out, but you can see various areas of colour, and that's what I'm looking for. So I'm starting the painting using Necromancer Cloak on the tracks, and just picking out all the black areas, and then go on to, you know, pick out some of the detail on the tank. And same with the Universal Carrier, really, picking out all the tracks, painting up the guns, some leather brown to the stock and handle of the gun. And then I've picked out little details like the lamps and the lights on both vehicles. So, bit of update on what I've been doing. I've changed directions, I'm afraid. Basically, I was trying to make this look like Charlie 1. Part way through that process, I realised that I hadn't got the decals for it, and as I couldn't get it right exactly, I thought, well, no, I'll change it. And I looked at some other pictures of Canadian Churchills, and I decided to do an amalgam of a few of them. So I made a few changes. The first change being, because it wasn't Charlie 1, I changed these back to their original positions with the opening lids. So that was the first thing that I changed. The other thing, because I've been building my Canadian vehicles over time, I realised that my decals were all a bit mishmashed. And so basically what I decided to do was I got all the vehicles out, and I thought, no, I want to make them uniform. I want to make them look like they're all part of a unit. So basically I ended up re-decaling some past vehicles, including the Kangaroo and Ram Kangaroo, to make them all knit together. I couldn't find the Charlie one as a decal either, so I decided to just make up a name in the end. And then the decal placing, particularly on the Churchill, I took it as a combination of different pictures. I found some that had got the decal here, some that had got the decal on the top, some with no decals there at all. So I've opted for the side ones and not the lid because it would have been harder to place the decal. As I say, came up with my own name based on parts of decals that did exist. So I've called it Bomb Boys. And I've adopted a unified Canadian. I think the numbers that I'm basing it on from the old pictures I saw, I think it's the 27th Canadian Armoured. And they had this sequence of numbers. So basically I went through all of my Canadian vehicles, including obviously the Bren Carrier that we're working on, and gave them the same sequence of numbers, but each one's, you know, like that one's 51, this is 52, and the others are 50 somethings. So basically I think that's pretty much updated. The only thing is I forgot to stop and show you me decal in this, so I'm afraid I jumped ahead in my hurry to get everything uniform. So I apologise for that, but you haven't missed much. You've seen me fit decals before. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at doing the weathering process. I won't drag you through all of it because again you've seen it, but I will do some on this for the camera. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some chip-ins first, and then after that we'll put some of the thick mud on, and then some of the splash mud onto this as well. But I'm also going to use my grime florry wash on the wheels here as well. So let me just get set up for that, and then we'll crack on with that. So apologies that we missed the decal bit, but yeah, I just got stuck into it and forgot all about it. Right, back in a minute. Right, so I've got myself a piece of sponge, and I'm going to dab this into my necromancer cloak to put the chip-ins on. What I do is just dip it into the paint and then get most of that off, and then we start applying the chips where we think they're most likely to occur. That'll do. It's very fine. I think you can see a bit on that wing and here. Look. Don't want to overdo it. And then we'll do the same on the Bren Carrier. There we go. next thing I'm going to do is add this grime to the wheels. Get it into the pattern of the tracks as well. What I'm doing is I'm just doing some fine streaks with this as well, you know, like water streak. I was going to use a military wash for that, but this looks pretty good, so if I show you, just turn the light around a little bit. That's the wheels before I had it, and that's after. I think that looks pretty convincing, really. Right, I'm going to let them dry and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at the mud. Right, so now I'm going to apply some of this Vallejo thick mud, and I've got one of my cheap and nasty brushes for this because I don't want to ruin anything half decent. The main thing I'm going to do is just crunch it up along this bottom edge. That's about all I'm looking to do, really. I'll just put a bit of light on that. I don't want to go overboard with it, but I want to put some dry mud on it now as well. You know, just little bits here and there. But before I do that, I'm going to do this one as well. Not doing this one quite so much. We'll get some onto that back behind the wheels though. So what I'm going to use now is some of this splash mud by Vallejo, and I just want to put a few little bits of it here and there in among the wet. It's just so we've basically got a little bit of simulated, you know, earlier mud that's drying out now. I'll just put a little bit on here actually, in case somebody's clambered up on it. Yeah, happy with that now. Let's put that to one side. We'll do the same with this, obviously in proportion. Let's bring that up for you to see. I've not gone mad, just a little bit. Alright, there is one more thing that I want to do, and then I'm going to call these complete. So what I want to do to finish it off is I'm just going to use an HB pencil just to run it along the edges of these tracks to give it a slightly metallic look. I'm not going to dislodge any of the thick mud, but where it's showing. I'm also going to use it next to some of the chipping. Not everywhere, just a bit. Where there's a bit of wear and tear as well. But if you look at that track, it's probably looking quite pronounced with the light bouncing off it, but it's not quite as pronounced as it's looking on the camera. But if I turn that round and show you the track that I haven't done, you can see the difference. So let's apply it to this side now as well. Right. It's also good on guns. I do it on the figures quite a lot. There you go. You see the metallic edges on the gun as well, and the tracks. Right, so what I'm going to do now with these two is I'm going to get them matte varnished, probably give them a couple of coats, and once they're done I'll take a few photos and we'll wrap this video up by taking a look at them. Right, so they're complete, and on the whole I have to say I'm pretty happy with them. The old spray gun came through after all. Anyway, I hope you've found something useful or interesting, and if you have liked it, please consider giving me a thumbs up, or even subscribing for when the next video drops. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.